and the way we get started is we raise our glasses and we cheers, chin chin.
Okay.
And,
Cheers.
and in France, you need to hit your camera with your glass. So chin, cheers.
Cheers. You turn red. Nearly you turn red with that color.
Yeah. Yeah, yours is a little darker than mine. So Janine, since you were the first one to get your drink in and you have a mouthful of food, we're gonna come to you right away. And so what are you tasting on this wine?
On mine, the one that I tasting now.
No, I'm going to talk to Janine, the other person. I don't know if you gather. So we're going to go to the people who are drinking the 2018 first, and then we'll come and we'll talk to you about the wine.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
Very tasty. Goes down smooth though. Some sort of fruit. I think I like that you noted about strawberries a little bit. So I don't know if that's in there, but it's delicious. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Elisa, what are you getting on this?
It's lovely. It's very light. A little yeastiness, which I love in a rosé. Strawberries. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Hey, and Mick and Bridget, what are you? They're pouring it now. You're on mute.
Oh yeah, sorry, we're still pouring. We'll be with you in a.
Yeah. So I also had another bottle of this last night, so I knew it was going to pair well with a little strawberry and goat cheese, and I went for a little savory connection with some Maldon sea salt and olive oil on top of that as well.
Yeah.
So that was my, and I'm getting the same thing. I mean, it's young, it's fruitful. It has just a little bit of that vegetal that you get from a Cab Franc. Not a lot, not like, but it's definitely there. And this is, it's interesting, as I was talking to France through Instagram, setting this up, she's like, you're going to drink the 19, right? The 2019? I'm like, no, we have the 2018 still. So this is part of the last batch, really, of the 2018 available. So let's talk. So with that, with my pleasure to introduce France. Is it Breton? How do I pronounce that?
It's perfect.
Breton, from Domaine Breton. So before we get into your background, why don't you tell us about, well, the 2019 that you're drinking, or the 2018, what you remember from this vintage?
Oh, 2018 was quite a old, hot summer vintage with a lot of maturity and high degrees of alcohol in the beginning of the fermentation. So we were supposed to have quite a heavy rosé. And then because we are all in natural yeast, they are quite getting aware about the alcohol, and they are working more and more in hot summer. So they get focused on getting the alcohol and getting the sugar to be combined. And in the 18, like, it's quite the beautiful blend between the flower taste and the buttery taste on a rosé. You still have the acidity of the Cabernet Franc, but it's quite like a mature grape, mature Cabernet Franc.
Yeah. And when you say flowery taste, what flowery taste are you sensing? What is that?
We say like white flowers. Maybe in English you say freesia, and flowers that get something energetic, something vital, something a bit green, but at the same time something honey taste.
Fantastic. And now that you're drinking the 20, if you hold up your 2019, the 2019 is a lot darker than the
one that I'm drinking actually is the one that I wanted to show you, because it was a rosé that we made for a wedding that is canceled now, and we say we're gonna share.
Let's see it.
But the 19 is there. We're gonna try it then.
Okay. Oh, that's the 19.
So it's closer to the 18, but it's a bit fresher, less alcohol, and you have like quite a beautiful acidity, citrus, lemon side of the rosé, which is digest and super energetic for summer times. And you still have something on the floral side, but more in comment on dit un tilleul? Like more in herbals.
Herbals,
Yeah.
herbaceous.
I have my herbs there. That's why I bring them.
Fantastic. Bring them up. So while you have your husband here, so you've seen the Leporellos logo of the intertwined arms. Have you seen our logo?
Your logo, the two arms. Yeah, they're super good.
So would you and your fiance mind doing a cheers with the interlocked arms?
No, not this one. Comme
Not
ça.
a hug.
Non, quand tu croises les bras. Non, c'est le bras.
Very good. Fantastic.
And do you make épaulé jeté? Do you know the movement that saved the winemaker?
No, what is that?
That's how we get drunk every night.
The
Let's make another one.
The movement that saved the winemaker. It's something from my father, and I think it's gonna be like the best movement ever. It's I'm gonna show you. So it's
One
movement, an untick movement, and then you shoulder your wine, épaulé, and then you throw it, jeté. And you have the épaulé jeté, and there is the épaulé jeté.
Would the American equivalent be wine shots?
Yes, definitely.
Chanté? Yeah.
Ouais, santé.
I could throw that back quickly. Okay, fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your background, your story, multi-generational family in the winemaking. So tell us a little bit about your family and then you yourself.
It's part of the story of this land, because we are in the Loire Valley, which is quite a confluent, a moving region in France. You have the Loire side, you have the Vienne side. It's quite a traveler part. And the Cabernet Franc was bring there from Bordeaux by the Brittany people, the Breton, not the British, but the guy from Britain in France, La Bretagne. And they were called the Breton. And they called the Cabernet Franc the Breton because it's the guy from this part of France that bring it. And so we get this name Breton because it's also the name of the Cabernet Franc. And now it's a lot of winemakers that have this name. It's the nickname of the variety of grapes. We are winemakers since a long time, and our names show it. But my father, he took the land of his family in 82, and he decided to convert them in an organic way in the 19th. And it was a lot of land that was part of my family. My grandfather, he was a carpenter as well as a winemaker, and they were making two works at the same time, two jobs at the same time. And so now winemaking is one entire job. You do it because you travel, because you sell wine to you, and because it's more it's a biggest work than it was before. In France, people were drinking a lot of wine. They were drinking more of one bottle every day, and now it's to every French people, it's around 30 liters every years. So it's smallest amounts of volume of wine that we drink, and so you need to sell it abroad, and so you have to make a real work to sell it abroad. So now you are winemaker as a real work. And so my father, he started to make this work as a passion, because in his family he always gets linked to cellars and to winemakers and to the Cabernet Franc. And now my brother and I, we are just joining the vineyard to make also wines, and just to continue this natural way of making wine in the Loire Valley.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought the two things that were interesting when I was doing research is that, yeah, Breton is another name for Cabernet Franc. So you're
Yeah.
actually named after the grape itself. It's also interesting that your grandfather was a carpenter and a winemaker, just like Jesus.
Yeah, it's quite part of the corporation and everything. Like,
So, I mean, he's in good company being a
yeah.
carpenter. So really, but your father took over the family vineyard in 1982, and how long's the vineyard been in the family? So, how many generations?
Oh, I wouldn't know what number, because as a story that is funny is that my grandmother, she had a sister, she were twins, and they get married to another twins, two other twin boys in the town. So they were like winemakers from our family, and the two guys, they were also winemakers from their family. So when they get married, they just have to split all the vineyard in two. So one family, they didn't get many vines because everything was shared in two. And that's quite a funny story, but because it means that at this time everyone gets vines, and it was just like having a boat to fish, or having it was, in fact, the water, it wasn't so good, so making wine was having a good water. Like you drink wine, you have no virus in the wine, so it was better to drink wine than to drink water. So everyone was making wine, and no, I wouldn't know how long, but like for everyone, forever, if you want to say, for my family, everyone has vines.
Oh, I mean, there's a great story there. Two twin sisters marry two twin brothers, and vines are involved in a lot of wine. I mean,
Yeah.
someone's going to write a screenplay for that one. That would be, so call LA, call Hollywood. Yeah, that's fantastic. And so
yeah, you
so,
take Marion Cotillard and you have the movie, like.
yeah, the movie is just right. The hardest part is casting it. Where are you going to find? Where are you going to find?
You need to find alcoholic.
Yeah, it can get Mary-Kate and Ashley to play the French women, I guess. At some point. So,
It all works.
Elisa does not like that idea. I don't know that many twins in Hollywood. I'm struggling.
I think you get Marion Cotillard or Audrey Tautou.
Okay.
That's fine. That's a good choice.
Yeah. So then let's talk about, how did you, like, so you're a multi-generational family. How did you get involved in the winemaking, or in the family business yourself?
Well, it's super
By the way,
easy.
I just love the way French women, when they want to, they do that. You've done that twice now already. It's so uniquely French. It's amazing.
Can you make like quand on dit une question, tu fais
I don't care.
ouais, because you say like French women, they do that.
I don't.
I'm
not
She does it really well.
Depends.
You know, it was really super easy to get involved in winemaking. Like you know, when your parents, they are just linked with winemakers, and you are always having dinner with people. Like, it's difficult to have a single life because you're always having wine and taking time to have people at home. Like I think the first time I had a glass of wine was at 10, so even it was not a part of my life at this moment, it was like okay for me to taste and to enjoy. And then I met people, and it was super fine to know that I can have a discussion about wine and a conversation about it. And then I decided to go to make a theater course to get involved in something else. And I started to make a scene directing. And then after it, I said like, okay, it's super nice and I love to meet people, But meeting people with text is not the same thing that meeting people with wine. And then I say, I'm gonna go back to the vineyard.
It's not
It's
the
easy
same.
to meet people with a text and a Shakespeare, but it's more easy to meet them with a Cabernet Franc. Like,
But what was it like then when you realized that when you were drinking other wine, that the wine that other people were drinking and making was not the same as what your parents were making with natural wine?
Ola, that's super question, because we were talking about we are all involved in quite the same taste, and we were talking about those kind of party when you always have someone who bring a bottle and he put it on the fridge because it's a wine and he's not going to open it. You know, he's not going to open it, and then at the end of the party, he took his bottle back. And then you say, okay, what was this kind of wine? Then the first party, you say nothing. The second one, you say nothing. The third one, you say, okay, we're going to open this bottle that the guy is bringing at every party. And then you drink it and you say, okay, why my parents never give me this shit to drink? And you understand, because there is nothing on this wine and there is no emotion. There is, I mean, the same taste in this vintage than in the next one. And if you taste it with you and with an African guy or an Asiatic guy, they want to taste the same thing. Even if your mouth is not built on the same taste and you are not built on the same cultural meaning, here when you taste this wine, you'll have the same feeling and no emotion. That means it's not like it's like a real technical music that is made to fit to everyone. Like a big genius in music is someone like who make a music like Mozart, and then you're gonna listen it in US or in France or as a baby. You'll have feeling, but you will never have the same feeling. And every time you'll hear it, it won't be the same feeling. That's how you may enjoy life, and that's how wine should be done.
I love that descriptor that's saying like the wine has emotion. Right, so the wine has emotion. So when you drink like when you drink your family wine, what emotions are you feeling?
I feel something safe, like confidence. I'm sure it's my taste and it's not part of everyone's taste. But I also feel a tiny taste of inspiration, like something that don't they are part of their work, but they are not completely their property. Like if someone was not their choice, the choice of the earth or the choice of the east, and so something that won't change, that be there every year, but it's not part of their work. Something that I mean, when I'm doing wines as well, I feel this something that is part of not human force. Is something from the east, like something from the land.
And I love that expression too. It's a taste of inspiration. Fantastic line there. So your father took over the winery in the early '80s, but he started forming. You really started making, the family started making natural wine in the early '90s for the first time. So can you talk about what that transformation was like from the family to move into that direction long before natural wine? I mean, natural wine is a very new movement, but go ahead.
At the beginning, when he started in the 80th, in 82, he started exactly. He was 18 years old. So he was quite following a bit what the family was talking about, and he was renting vines from his aunt, and he was quite focused on what she was expecting for the wines. And so she said, okay, I'm not gonna give you the land because you're gonna make organic wine, and I'm not okay for that. And then he met winemakers like Marcel Lapierre in the Beaujolais, and they were already involved in natural way making, because before natural way of making wine, it was more about what do you put in your wines? Do you put only grapes or do you put other things? If you are unconfident, you can put many things to have your wine to be good. Like we say now conventional, but it means conventional. It means that gave to everyone a taste that is okay. And then he met like Marcel, and Marcel say, well, don't give a shit to your aunt if she doesn't want to give you the land. You're gonna find land because people are aware about the energy you are giving, and everyone will know about you, even in the US, if it's not your aunt. And then my father say, okay, now it's not about natural wine. It's not about making biological farm. It's making about my own origin, my own creativity. And then from this, he made main thing, like he made a rosé from Cabernet Franc, he made a carbonic maceration of Cabernet Franc. My mother, she made natural pet nat, and so everything was easier because it wasn't about natural wine, but it was about your creativity.
Mhm.
And that's why they give us to their children. They say, now you are making wines, and okay, there'll be those kind of wines. We are going to help you to make things that are going to be similar, good, but you always have your creativity, and you'll make your things.
Yeah. So and with that creativity, how does that show up? Because there's two different labels really for the Domaine Breton. There's the Catherine Pierre Breton, and then there's the La Dilettante. And this is part of the La Dilettante,
Yeah.
I guess, label.
The others with drawing, they are more on yeah, it's less something about the terroir, but more something about vinification and getting from these grapes, because we are working on one grape, one variety of grape, which is Cabernet Franc, and it's quite tough work to make from one variety single wines, but a lot of plenty of taste. And you need that every wines have a single identity, but at the same time that they get part of a family of wines. So they say now we have terroir wines that are part of the land. So we are talking about lands, and it's the lands that is giving us identity to the wines. So it's all the lands with the river, we're Catherine Breton, quite like easy wines that you recognize because of the name is written on the front. And then you have the wines with the drawing that are also an expression with a friend, which is Michel Tolmer, who made a super drawing for the Domaine.
Yeah.
Now he made also with my brother those kind of drawings. So it's yeah, it's cheerful, and it's and it means it's wine that are less on the territory, and it's more on the expression of the grapes, expression of the vinification.
And you know, what's one of the things I love about the Domaine is that a lot of people claim, or detractors claim, that natural wine doesn't age well, but your wine ages extremely well. And I've had many in the last 2 years. I've had many vintages of the Catherine Pierre Breton from 93, 94, 96. They're being released more frequently in the older vintages. So can you talk a little bit about the aging process and how you release the older wines?
So we say that in the Domaine, every wine can be aged. It depends of the vintage, of course. Like sometimes you can age a rosé, even if it's not the trend. If it's not trendy, you can age a rosé. But we made really two cuvées, which are Perrière and Clos Sénéchal. They are really focused on the terroir, and they are made to be aged because they are when we sell them, they are already aged. Like now we are selling the 2015 of Perrier, which is 5 year of age. Like we make 2 years in barrels and then 3 year in bottle, and then we sell them. And we are selling the 17 of the Clos Sénéchal. We were supposed to sell the 16 now, but we have froze on 16, and so we have no wine to sell. But on the 17, we made 2 years in full, in big tank, and then 1 year in a bottle before to sell them. So they are quite wine to keep. And the Cabernet Franc is a beautiful variety to keep. Like
and I can tell you the 94 and the 96 vintages that have no sulfur added, nothing added as well, aged extremely well. And I've had them in the last year or two. And these are wines that 25 years later, natural wines are tasting absolutely beautifully.
And it means like 94. I'm from 94. Victoire also, she's from 94. And when we were kids, it wasn't a good year. Like people say, oh, okay, 94, forget about it. It's not good. And no, it depends. It depends what do you do with your wine. If you help them with conventional yeast, it won't be a wine to keep. If it's the natural yeast, they will reveal something sometime at a point. You should wait and you should try. Sometimes you open a bottle, you say, yeah, it's fine. Like it's Breton and it's okay. It's the taste I know, but it's not like, wow, this bottle I will never forget. And sometimes for Cabernet Franc, you have that. You have this acidity and the bitterness and something sweet, and you say, wow, that's the bottle I will never forget. Yeah.
So do you have like a case or two of your birth year wines that's going to come out for your wedding?
A case of two. Yeah. No, we also have the best thing for the wedding is not drinking for all vintage, because Baptiste also is from 94, is drinking wine from our guests that are mostly winemaker. The guests from my parents, they're gonna be mostly winemakers, and I'm sure they're gonna bring us like du Morgon de Jean Foyard, 94.
Yeah, it's the one scenario where you can have a bring your own bottle party for your wedding, and you know it's going to turn out okay.
Yeah.
Because everyone's a winemaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And do you want to talk a little bit about? So you have another project outside the Domaine.
Yeah, we have many projects. Like now but we are quite an energetic family, a super energetic family. Like we can't do one thing at one time. We always have a new project. So now we are opening. We have in the Domaine a place to welcome people. There is 10 beds in the middle of the vines, and it's
all right, I'm nice. There. I'll be there.
So it's just up to the cellar. So you're drinking up to the élevage, and it's quite a place where you need to come with the real good friends, because it's 10 beds. It's like we build them as when you came as a teenager in a camp and you were supposed to sleep all together, forgetting about when you get to sleep. Like it's quite the idea of the place. Like you're gonna sleep in 10 beds, but they are in the same room, and you have the cellar downstairs. You are in all the chais and all the cuvées. So you have all the yeast that are on the comment les murs, on the building, and it's quite dark because of the wines. The yeast of the Cabernet Franc, they are quite dark, so all the building is dark, and it's a really beautiful place with the character. And we also now making a new project with Victoire that is on Chinon, because Chinon is at the in between our 3 vineyards, in between Vouvray, in between Bourgueil, and it's a real beautiful town. If you've never been to France, you should go to Chinon, which is a historical town where Jeanne d'Arc came, and Rabelais was also building a big story about it. And
I
now
love the idea of like this summer camp where there's like a room that everybody sleeps in on top of all the wine and everything. Just like this, yeah, this.
yeah,
You know,
you're okay.
what could go wrong with all those teenagers with all that wine?
Yeah, we'll always be, wine will always bring us to this time.
Yeah. But you launched another project called Leporellos, or what's?
La Cuverie,
Yeah.
that's
What is
the name of this place.
Oh, that's
Which
the name
is-
of this place. Okay.
which is
Yeah.
Also, this is the name because La Cuverie means the cellar. It's
Got it.
and it's also a place where we because of the theater that I came from and the artists that were linked to my studies, I wanted to make a place where sometimes you think that people from the theater, they drink because they drink, it's obvious they drink, and you think they drink well, but no, they're not drinking that well. So we wanted to build also a place where they can meet natural wine, because it's not always easy to find natural wine, and it's not always cheap. So for artists, it's sometimes difficult, but it's always a wine that when they get into, they get creative and intuitive. Whereas when they get into bad alcohol, they are not. They are getting crazy, and you want.
Yeah. So I love this. So you're building a community where artists can come and drink natural wine, a little bit more affordability and affordable, and unleash
they
their
spend
creativity.
like 1 week or 1 month, and they make their creation, and then they give back the work they've done there, like by a show or by something, a painting, a writing, something that can stay.
That's absolutely fantastic. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going to come to Elisa. Elisa, I know you're on mute now, but we're going to ask a question. So I asked people to type in their questions in the chat. I really want people to I want everyone to get involved and ask their own questions, but sometimes they just try and figure out the right way, the right time for them to ask that question.
Yeah. Don't
But
worry.
Elisa, go for it. You're on.
I have so many questions. You're so awesome.
Yes.
The first question is around Cab Franc and the woo!
Well.
Crap, hi. So hi. In case you weren't paying attention, now you are. So you focus solely on Cab Franc. Why do you do that? And as you make it in different sort of versions, right? You're making a rosé. You're probably making a red. I'm guessing. You mentioned a pet nat. Like, what do you try to bring out in the grape as you make different versions of the Cab Franc?
Yeah. But there are many people, like in France, they don't drink Cabernet Franc. It's quite difficult to bring people to Cabernet Franc, because in France it's easier to find a Languedoc or a Côte du Rhône. It's tasty, it's sweet, and you have alcohol and you have everything you need in a wine. So Cabernet Franc is, you get into acidity, bitterness, you get into something green, and so it keeps your head a bit in a smoky mood, because you try and you say, oh no, it's not quite the taste I want for wine. And then you try a rosé from Cabernet Franc, a pet nat, and then you say, well, it's not the same grapes. I won't understand. And then you understand that it's part of the land we live on, the Val de Loire, which is just a lot of land that are only Cabernet Franc planted, and that people, it's like when you take an obstacle, something that not in a problem, then you say, okay, I'm not going to get into the problem, and I'm going to make creativity from it. And that's quite the thing of us, is that it's a beautiful variety, because we do plenty thing with it when we play with it. And if you stay,
I'm going to share a personal story about Cabernet Franc. It's actually one of my favorite grapes. And it starts from, I had a chance, I grew up on the East Coast in America, and I was working in San Francisco in the mid 90s, and had a chance to go up to, before Sonoma and Napa were really commercialized. They were getting there, but Sonoma was not. And I went to Coppola Vineyard, Francis Ford Coppola, famous vineyard now, everything. But the place that Coppola is now was not built yet. It was under construction. So the pool and everything was not there. They had tents set up. And one of the wines that he was making was a Cab Franc. And it was the first time I'd ever seen 100% Cab Franc. It was a 1994 vintage. and we tried it and I loved it, so I bought a case of it, which is also very rare. I was younger, obviously younger, but I bought it and I brought a bunch home to my family in New Jersey, and my family was like, "This is delicious," and my dad was like, I'll buy a case of this. Like, let's order a case and have it shipped out. And everyone liked it because it was unique. It was different. I love the vegetal quality. And we wound up calling Coppola Vineyard, and they had sold out of them. And the next year, the 95, they did not make 100% Cab Franc because it's mostly used for a blending grape. And, you know, it's one of the top blending grapes for Bordeaux varietals. So it's not widely, it's not a grape that is used as a single grape vintage. So, but I absolutely love this grape. So I'm a huge fan of Domaine Breton. I drank most of the wine, like all the vintages in the 90s. We've had them many times. So that's why I wanted to have it in the club. So it's a beautiful varietal that most people are just not familiar with, which is why I also drew out in the chart that Cabernet Franc is actually one of the parents of Cabernet Sauvignon. You know, it was mixed with Sauvignon Blanc to make Cabernet Sauvignon, which is number one grape in America, really, because of Napa Valley in California. But
do you know about Lofi wines?
I just had their Cab Franc last night. I was.
And I have a funny story to tell you about him. Is that we met him with my father in Chicago last year.
Okay.
At what's the name of the trade? I would forget. Well, don't worry. He was there, and then I didn't know about him, and my father neither. So he bring us a glass of wine, and my father say, "Oh, bloody shit, American guy, why do you bring me my own wines?" Like he said, he bring him a glass, and my father say, the name of the cuvée is Avis de Vin Fort. I say, "Why do you bring me a Avis de Vin Fort?" And he said, "No, it's not your wine, it's mine, and I copy you." It's been like this.
Nice.
And he didn't say like it was like a copy, but like a huge chill, like a children that say, "Yeah, I was trying to try to make it in the US this acidity and this and it was super sweet."
Okay, so you know Lo-Fi is going to take this clip and market it as Cabernet Franc in America is just as good.
That's why I need to talk with Kermit Lynch to say, now you're going to make a big
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned, and again, this is where my personal influence obviously comes into the wine club. Was the Lo-Fi Cabernet was one of the first wines I bought for the wine club when I started.
Oh yeah, they're on some, and he's an handsome guy, and he needs to be known, and it's okay to it's we don't have to compare, like it won't be the same one. And I like, one thing I like to do is to go with him and make vintage with him, like having a time together to say, okay, what's the Cabernet Franc from the US, what's Cabernet Franc from the Loire, and having something to share about it. It's not about
I'm sensing what I'm hearing is we need like a Judgment of Paris type contest between Cabernet Franc in France. Janine's like, no, don't do that. Don't
forget, someday you'll have one vintage, and we'll make it both.
Yeah, like your own Brutal, like a Brutal or a blend, or we can do it like in a. I'm gonna make fun of millennials in America now. It's like we can do it where everyone gets a participation trophy, so there's no winners and no losers, but everyone just has good wine. Yeah. I think that would be a lot of fun too.
Cool.
But the typically the Cab Francs that I had the Lo-Fi yesterday, oddly enough. Because it was in my wine club from LA, and the Cab Francs that I've had have all been reds. So I'm interested, like, as you make it as a rosé or you make it as a pet nat, like, how do you think about what flavors you want to bring out here? Because I didn't immediately taste the like green bell pepper like overtly on the rosé, which is fine, and it's a lovely rosé. But I do notice it a little bit as I'm drinking it because I know it's Cab Franc and I'm trying to like remember that.
It's a difficult question. Maybe you should come for the harvest because it's every year different time, and every year yeah, you feel different flavor on the cellar, and then you say, oh, why it's gonna be this kind of peach taste, or it's gonna be this kind of, and it's never get a peach taste. Like it tastes Cabernet Franc at the end, and then
Yeah.
you go with customers, say, yeah, it tastes peach. Do you see like it's really flour? No, 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 and people say, no, no, it tastes.
Yeah.
Cabernet
So,
Franc.
so that vegetal bell pepper flavor, the chemical compound is pyrazine.
Yeah.
And so Marina joined us a little late, but we had a very extensive conversation about pyrazine flavors in France. There's this pyrazine belt that goes from the Loire Valley through Bordeaux and down to southern France, and some of the varietals. We were drinking a Brocal, a Brocal varietal, very unique varietal that have these vegetal flavors, and it's a pyrazine is the name of the flavonoid compound that's present in that. So I imagine that in a rosé, when it's pressed and does less skin contact,
You have less anthocyane and less.
yeah. You have a little bit less of that pyrazine compound coming out. So again, I may be just making shit up right now, but I do taste it a little, but it's very subtle. It's very much in the background, but it's definitely there.
Yeah. But next time we'll make a same tasting, but with like a nuit d'ivresse or another cuvée which is plenty red Cabernet Franc. And
So actually, one of the ideas that I have, and I debate about this with the club because so you look around. I mean, there's usually more people on the call, but there are a number of couples here and a number of singles here. So for me, opening up 2 bottles in one night would be a tall ask. But what I like to do is what I have an idea to do is to have themes about the tasting, where maybe I'll have a Breton cab next to a lo-fi cab, Cab Franc, and we can open both of them and do side by side, New World, Old World, or do some of those other things, where they're both going to taste delicious, but they're just going to taste a little different, and then we can talk about the differences and everything.
I'd be super glad to do that.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. And I know the lo-fi guys will probably be really happy to do that as well.
Cool.
And the other tasting that I'm coming around to, which is really my friends think I'm going off the wagon with some of these, is that the idea of spending so much time talking about a single wine or a single vintage, some people are like, there's a feel that it's pretentious, or like, what, you're putting way too much effort into it. But now I'm coming around to the idea that this is about mindfulness. This is about appreciation for the grower, like your family who's doing this, and saying, what does it take to bring this glass to my table? So all the pruning, everything that goes through it. This is a 2008. So this has taken now over 2 years from the first pruning, the 2 years that it's taken to get this bottle, this grape, to this glass, and for me to taste it, probably deserves a couple of minutes of reflection of who made it, who grew it, who picked it, how was it made, who distributed it, who bottled it, how did it get to my, and then like, how did it get to the glass that's going to my lips now? It's worth that reflection. So that mindfulness about where the source of what we're consuming comes from is probably worth a couple of minutes of people's time.
This is me this summer.
That's you. That's you. So Franz, can you tell? So you mentioned the label. So who drew the label? What is this? Do you have any insights to what the label is about?
Of course. Where can I converse? Yeah, I'm gonna write it there. Michel. You should see his work. You also go on. He made a website which is Glugel, like Google, but it's glue and girl a face. Like it's a pun in French. So
Okay.
you should look at his work. It's awesome, and it's yeah.
I'll post it
Nowadays
on
he
the
made
Instagram
he
too.
made not a cartoon well, something that is called Mimi, Fifi, and Glou Glou, and it's beautiful. Comment on dit une bande dessinée? Non,
No.
cartoon, non.
Comics.
Comics. Mimi, Fifi, and Glou Glou. It's a comics about a wine, and it's from Michel Tolmer, and it's super funny.
I've actually seen them. They're fantastic. I'll send the link to everybody. They are fantastic. And
we just followed him
but-
on Instagram, and he's got there's some
Yeah,
real content
this is
there.
him.
yeah. So and Glue Glue now has been also used in
Yeah,
other people have taken it and named their wines after it. Like
Yeah.
it's
super easy drinking. It's
super easy.
something-
How else would you describe Glue Glue in France?
Crushable.
Yeah, crushable. Yeah, we
It's something you drink and you forget what's gonna happen. Like you
yeah,
drink
yeah.
Juggable too.
And we call the rosé la ritournelle, and it's quite the same idea, but it's more musical because la ritournelle in French, you can write about the translation. I don't know in English, but it's those kind of song that get into your head and never get out.
Oh,
And
we
it's
call
quite
those earworms.
Yeah, it's a song, and you will never forget about it. It's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that stay there.
It's an earworm. Yeah. So Janine, did you have a question or did you ask your question? Sorry. Okay, Elisa, you had another question. Go ahead.
Sorry. I noticed that your distributor is Kermit Lynch, and one of the first things I learned about finding wine that I like was someone told me, just look for Kermit Lynch on the back, and then you'll know it's a good wine. So I'm curious, you talked a little bit about needing to enter the US market and trying to sell in the US. Like, how did you determine the relationship and build the relationship with Kermit Lynch, and how is it going?
Well, yeah, it's like at the beginning, Kermit was just no one, and we were no one. And it's like in the life, people build a story, and if they are honest, and if they say the good things, and if they are not cheating about their life and their taste,
Yeah.
they make good things. And Kermit, he was confident, and we also work with at the beginning with Dressner, and we were working in the both side of the US, and we were both friends with everyone. And then at a moment we say, okay, we're gonna make one market, because it's difficult also to always have two view of one country. And Kermit was there, and then it get with him. And then now it's Anthony, that is quite my age, is his son, and it's super easy because it's also quite French guy. So when we talk, he's quite there, and he say, okay, this is how it works in US, and that's his friends, and he understand everything that we think, and he can translate about all your thoughts. And for the wine, it's nice because it's something that is emotional, the wines. And sometimes you meet people and you say, do you understand my work? And you need to have people that understand the emotion of the country to say, yeah, you understand, of course, but it's not the same culture. So sometimes you feel it like that. And when you came in the US, like we are partying all the night, and we are making a good work, but we are also partying. And sometimes you say, did they understand? And we were partying, but it was part of friendship and everything. And you say, yeah, it's they are quite French in the blood, the American, like they understand, of course, what you do when you come. So yeah, we are super glad to work with them. And I'm sure that it's a hard time for everyone that work in wines in the US at the moment, and it's a super hard time, and it's gonna be tough work. And I'm sure that people like making wine in the US are going to have to deal with problems that wasn't there before. And people that work in restaurants in the US, it was really a tough work before. I know, because I know about the money and everything, and I talk with cooking and waitress, and I talk with them because it's part of my work also. Like, I know people in France, I know the problem of the money when you work in this well, when you do those kind of job. And now I'm gonna say it's gonna be a really difficult work, but they need to continue to make things with the good people and the thing with the earth, because it's the way people are going to drink wines and they are going to share, and we need to share on those kind of moments.
Yeah. So the one thing I'll add, so most people, so this is the Kermit Lynch label. So a lot of people who are getting into natural wine do talk about, like, look at who the importer is, because a lot of natural wine importers exclusively bring in natural wine. Kermit Lynch is a fantastic importer. They're not exclusively natural wine. But one of the things about Kermit Lynch, which is amazing, is that if you go to their website, they are one of the best about putting information and text sheets about the wines that they sell. So you go on their wine, if it's natural, if it's biologic or organically grown, it's going to be there. So
they care about the winemakers, so that's the...
Yeah, they care about the winemakers. They're exceptional. They're exceptional about that. So it's not all the wine that I like to, but when it comes to transparency and who the winemakers are, they're one of the best at that. So we're really happy to be partners with them and work with them. And
I may confess that when you asked me to make a tasting, and I just ask Anthony and I say, well, what do you think? Should I go? Or I say, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So
super okay.
So we work with our Kermit Lynch distributor, and he's a fantastic Garrett. He's a fantastic guy, very much, and he's the one who brought this to me. He's like, oh, you really have to try this. And I had not had the La Dilettante before, but I had the other Catherine Breton Cabernet Francs before. So so they bring you, like, they know. Kermit Lynch is very good about now their distributors saying, I know what Leporellos is looking for. I'm going to bring them things that fit their mold, and they're excellent at transparency. And that's really all we care about. We want transparency. We want honesty. We want people to share, what they're doing and how they're doing it, and they're fantastic for that. So we're happy partners with them.
Yeah.
So I know we're coming up on a little bit of time. So France, do you have any final thoughts? Or, well, before we go to that,
I'd be super glad to make the tasting with lo-fi, really, if you manage to
I would love that. We will totally get that set up. We will. That is going to happen. I mean, obviously, I'll send this clip to the lo-fi guys, and they're going to be like, "This is great." So we will make that happen fairly soon. Does anyone else have any questions? Vic, Bridget, Janine, Marina, Elisa?
I'll ask one last one.
Go ahead.
So you started making natural wine very early in the 90s. What do you think about sort of the way that natural wine has evolved? It's kind of now very trendy. There's not, in France, they've started some regulation around it. Like, what do you think of where it is now and where it's going in the future?
Well, I think it's great. Like, it's like if you do hip hop music and you say, oh, there are too many people that make hip hop. Like, no, you were supposed to say it's cool. Like, you make a punk jazz and you say, oh no, there are too many people that do that. No, it's super nice, and it's better because now you talk with people and it's not about a discussion. Like, it's oh, you drink natural wine? Yeah. Oh, but yeah, of course. Yeah, I do natural wine. Oh, that's super cool. Like, before it was yeah, but sometimes you get people, it's trouble and there is some gas on it and I don't really like it. Now when people say that, they are more than 50 years old, and all the ones that are under there, they are quite like going to be your friend, and you're gonna have a party with them. So that's a good things. It's also good because the more we are, the less expensive it is, because it's quite easy to understand. Like, if we are a small amount of people that make natural wine, it's gonna be difficult to get our wines, and it's gonna be expensive. And it's not the idea about wines. The idea about wine is to be able to drink it even if you are in India or in Japan. And the third thing is that well, you make people easier when you drink natural wine.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And actually, I forgot to ask this question. It was on my list of questions to ask you is because you're kind of in the heart of where the label of the natural wine label came from in France, the Vin Method Naturale. What is your opinion on this new wine label for bottles in France?
You mean the way that they put natural wine into something with rules and
Yeah, there's a new label or appellation,
Yeah.
the Vin Method Naturale. Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to say because even no, even if it's all I say is about creativity, and I know people, and I say they work beautifully because I came to their vineyard, and they do beautiful work, and they are not even natural. They are not asking about natural. So if they ask about this biodynamical, they are not even biodynamical, and they are not going to ask about the label natural wine that is now built, because they think that it's about their creativity, and if they get into something, they are quite it's a trap. To me, it's good. It's good because it's help people to have a choice, and to begin in this world. It's like when you like I compare again with music. It's when you buy a Blue Note album of jazz. You know that it's Blue Note, and people say it's Blue Note, so you know that it's gonna be jazz that is amazing.
Yeah,
That
totally.
is not amazing, but you try a Blue Note, and then you ask to yourself, I am buying a label or I am buying jazz music. It's the same thing for wines, and people that make wines without any organization. Sometimes they make great wines. Like, so it's a good thing for customers. It's a real good thing for customers.
All right. Well, so thank you for that. So I really want to everyone give France a round of applause. Thank you for joining us. This has been fantastic. I really love it. I love the background, your friends. This is what it's all about. So thank you very much.
I'm gonna send you the restaurant of the France. If you go to Paris, you'll have voilà. I'm gonna write you so that you have all the places.